Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video. I'm Get Good Guy, and the most common question I'm currently seeing is, should I buy Battlefield 5? Is it worth it? Because the deluxe edition of the game dropped today, and so many people are starting to consider a potential purchase. And the real answer is that nobody can tell you with 100% certainty if you should buy it. But as I'm being asked so much, what I can do is give my overall opinion of what I've experienced playing the early access trial, how it's improved since the beta, and how I foresee things panning out with the planned patches. I'll do this without any bias. I've made very positive and very negative videos about Battlefield before. I don't alter my feedback to you guys for any external reasons. And if you're looking for a detailed overview, then I've got you covered. If not, then this video may be a little too long for you. But I will try to remember to timestamp the positives, minor concerns, major concerns, and conclusion sections in the description and my pinned comment. So again, before we start, just to be very clear, you don't have to agree with me, and you shouldn't necessarily take my opinion or anyone else's opinion as gospel. I'm just trying to flesh out your understanding of the game to help you to make your decision. Right, let's kick this off. What did I learn from playing the early access trial? Well, first off, I'll quickly mention what I've covered in previous videos. I'm not going to go into detail about them for that reason, so I'll link to the relevant videos below. But basically, you'll probably have more fun and more success in Battlefield 5 if you play with friends. It's pretty squad orientated and playing solo can be tricky, but I did still have some success playing on my own, and I definitely still enjoyed it. Just keep in mind that if you play alone a lot, this game may be a bit of a struggle at times. Then there's the visibility issues. Battlefield 1 had them, the beta for Battlefield 5 absolutely had them, but I now think they're a lot better in the full release. I don't have great eyes myself, and yet I can very often pick enemy targets out, which is a huge relief. But having looked at the feedback on my video and on Twitter, it seems there are still some people struggling. So if that's a concern for you, then perhaps keep a lookout for updates as to whether it's going to be altered further still or not. But let's get into the fresh topics, and I'll start with the positives. The gunplay feels great, far more satisfying than in BF1, and I say that as someone who enjoyed BF1 gunplay, but now it just feels right to me. From a console perspective, it just feels like the game doesn't hold your hand as much now. Regardless of what settings you have on, it just kind of goes, right, aim your weapon straight. If you can do that, then you'll hit the target. If you can't, then you're probably dead, which I like. For some people, this will take some getting used to, but at least it's pretty much skill-based now. If you're a better shot, then you should win the fight. That seems fair, and I like fair. I have tried playing with aim assist slowdown and auto-rotation both off and on, and there is some difference obviously, but it's not very strong at all now in my opinion, and again feeds into that idea of making the player do the work. Then we have the movement, and boy does the movement feel good most of the time, and I'll get to why I say most of the time later on, but overall it feels fluid. I was unsure about the new way you slide, but now I really like it. I like how you can kind of use momentum to almost do basic parkour through an area as well, and the introduction of jumping through windows without first having to smash them is great. It saves a lot of frustration and slowing things down. Then there's the vehicles, and I'm not really a vehicle user, people. In fact, I'm just straight up not a vehicle user at all, so I can only comment from the infantry side of things, but I'm not constantly dying to vehicles like I did in BF1, which is another huge relief. In BF1, I nearly lost my mind with how often you'd get absolutely destroyed as infantry by vehicles, but so far I've been killed by tanks maybe 10 times and are playing once, and that's across nearly 2 10-hour trials. Of course, once people become more experienced with vehicles, this may alter a bit, and I have heard other people say that the bomber may actually be super overpowered, but DICE have already said they're looking into this, and overall, the vehicles seem powerful when used correctly and get wrecked when used improperly. Glass cannons in some ways, especially the tanks up close. Whether vehicle users will agree with me or not is potentially another story though, but if you're looking for a good infantry experience, then the signs are positive. And then I'll round out the major positives with visuals and sound design. Now I think audio cues are currently poor, and I'll cover that later on, but the actual basic sound of the game, the weapon noises, the V1 rocket flying overhead, buildings crumbling, all of that experiential stuff, I think is excellent. Well done DICE. And visually, I think it's stunning. I really do. I didn't think so in the beta, but now I definitely do. There's some debate as to whether it looks better or worse than BF1. I personally think it looks better, although I do understand why some people think it's maybe a tad cartoony by comparison. It is much more colourful, so that will come down to personal taste. But whether you think Battlefield 1 looks better or Battlefield 5 looks better, I don't think there'll be many people saying this is a bad looking game. So let's summarise those positives. It looks and sounds great. The gunplay is fun, satisfying, and skill based. The movement feels like a step up from Battlefield 1 overall, and the balance between vehicles and infantry is far better in my opinion. So as an overall experience, without the finer details being considered, it's great. But now we must move on. Next up, I'll go through some points that aren't positives, they're concerns, but either aren't major concerns or are things I think will be fixed soon, but you may want to keep them in mind if you're unsure about purchasing the game. So there are bugs, lots of bugs, menu bugs, bugs with inviting friends, a bug that doesn't let you call in your hard-earned V1 rocket sometimes, bugs with spawning and being unable to move, bugs. And realistically, what else would you expect? This is Battlefield after all, but I foresee many of them being cleared up without too much issue. I've already seen from some devs on Twitter that a number of them are going to be addressed, but I am a little concerned that some will stick around. Battlefield 1 had bugs through its entire lifespan, so keep that in mind when considering buying the game. It doesn't ruin the experience at all, at least not for me, but it can be a niggling annoyance that builds up over time, and if they don't fix issues with creating parties and joining your friends in game, then that could spiral into a huge annoyance. Now, the menus themselves aren't well designed. There are just too many different pages for things that could be grouped together. It's unnecessarily complex and long-winded, but I've seen that this is also going to be addressed, so again, I'm not too worried about that one. If they simply get it to function like BF1 in that department, then I'll be satisfied. They just need to be simple and to the point. Next up, I'll go for Conquest Assault. I don't like Conquest Assault because I just don't enjoy how it plays out. I don't know if it's because of how it's designed or because so many people don't know how to play it properly, but it's just so often a boring mess. I'm calling this a minor point as it's one game type in one mode rotation, but it's just not fun to play for me. Then we come to audio cues. They are poor currently, and I'd have this as a major concern if it weren't for having seen a dev again say they're taking the feedback on board and will look into it. I can't see how this possibly won't be fixed. If it isn't, then all my days it's catastrophic, but I'll work under the assumption that it will be. Basically, what I'm talking about is footsteps being just incredibly quiet. I mean, there's a moment where I've had 5 people run up behind me and mow me down and I didn't hear a single sound, and this is with the 3D headphones setting on. It's just so hard to hear people around you most of the time, and that can be horrendous on a game like this with so much space and so many variables. I've seen many people bring this up and it simply has to be fixed. If it isn't, then this point will be moved to the major concern section as perhaps the most major concern, because you can add this to other audio cues not being well done, such as things like gunfire, which just don't seem to have much directionality to them sometimes. So myself and others are frequently asking where we're being shot from. It all needs to fix and I hope it gets it. Oh, and I'd like the kill notification sound to be a little louder as well, but that's a very minor point. And I'll round out the minor concerns with map design. Don't get me wrong, I think the maps are great. They're awesome to look at and have decent variation, but some could do with maybe being shrunk down just a tad. Not a lot, but a little. There are some areas that are just so out of the way for no real reason. I'm not really asking for the maps to feel all that different. I don't want to ruin the Battlefield experience of big maps, but there's just some things that could be brought in so they're not just way out of the way. But more than that, I'd just like more points of interest and lanes, more options to take, rather than simply running across vast expanses and hoping I don't get shot. Then the maps would be excellent. And so now we come to my major concerns. I have 4. 3 of them are concerns for me personally, and one is something that I feel will concern some people who may be interested in this kind of game. So we'll begin with the ones that trouble me personally. Number 1, movement issues. Yes, I said that overall the movement feels great, and it does, but some problems that were present in BF1 have made their way over to BF5, and I didn't really expect them to, such as having to try multiple times to jump over things. It's annoying and can get you killed. There's also struggling to line yourself up properly with windows to jump through them, and not being able to climb over some things that are smaller than other things you've already climbed over, plus getting stuck on teammates and the like. I think potentially the physical box of the teammates is too large and you just get stuck on them. They need to maybe allow you to sort of rub round them, if that makes sense. These issues just really slow things down, and they're a big point for me. I worry because they were present for essentially the whole of BF1, so my concern would be that this will be the case here. The movement system is so good overall, I just wish these problems didn't exist, and I hope something is done about them. Then there's the time to die. For some reason, it doesn't seem as if the servers are registering time to kill and time to die at the same rate. No, I didn't know this was a thing until I heard other people talking about it, did some research of my own, and also felt like I experienced it. The time to kill in the game seems okay, but the feedback you get when you're being shot seems off, which feels like it results in some ridiculous deaths where you just dropped in a split second by 1 bullet. I'm pretty sure this is actually happening and it needs altering. I believe I either saw that the devs are looking into it or at least looking for evidence of it from players, so I hope it all turns out okay. And if in reality there's nothing wrong and I've simply been drawn into the Battlefield community hive mind, then I apologize and I'll accept that it was all in my head, which is possible, but right now it certainly feels like there's a problem. And then number 3 for my personal concerns, revives. I really like the new revive mechanic, but it has one huge flaw. On console at least, it's the same button to revive as it is to pick a weapon up off the floor. So your teammate goes down and drops their gun, you run over and try to revive them, often accidentally spend time picking up their weapon, and then either die due to lost time, or you're now both okay, but you have the wrong weapons. It may not seem like a big deal, but it is. It's so annoying. You don't want to have to worry about this stuff when you're running for a revive. And I'm not sure if there's a way to alter this via the control scheme settings, and in fact, I'm going to try to do that later, because if I can change this, I absolutely will, but if not, then it's an issue. And it's a problem in itself that it's the default setting anyway. And then finally, we come to the concern that doesn't really bother me, but may well bother other people. And it's kind of a twofold thing, the feel and authenticity of the game. So let's get this out of the way. No, it isn't 100% authentic. If that's what you want, then this may not be the title for you. It's nowhere near as bad as some people may lead you to believe, but it's also not a World War II simulator, and that's not what it was designed to be. So keep that in mind if you're that way inclined. And the overall feel of the game doesn't scream World War II for some people. For some it does, but for quite a few it doesn't. Myself included in some ways. And again, I'm not really bothered about this as stated, but for the benefit of those that are, well, it's hard for me to put my finger on why it doesn't feel like it. Maybe it's the colors, maybe it's the less commonly used settings, I'm not sure. It just doesn't feel as much like I'm in World War II as some other games I've experienced. So if that's what you're after, then you've been warned. Spend a good chunk of time looking at the game, getting some more feedback, and then decide if it's for you. And so with all of those points covered, it's time I summarized and concluded. I think this is a far superior game to BF1 so far. The experience is somewhat spoiled by bugs, most of which I feel will be solved. If some of them aren't solved, then it will be pretty detrimental to the long-term enjoyment of playing the game. But overall, I recommend it from my perspective. I'm enjoying it a huge amount, lots more than I expected to, but my experience may not line up with yours. And if you're still unsure, then wait, watch some more gameplay, gather some more opinions, and then make your decision. If you want an accurate World War II simulation, then you're likely better off looking elsewhere. But if you want gameplay first, then this may well be a great shout to add to your game collection. So, what do you think? Have you played BF5? Do you like it? If you haven't played it, do you intend to? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, then hit that like button for me. It would mean a lot. Subscribe if you're new here, and turn on those notifications with the bell button so you don't miss out on all the Battlefield 5 content I've got coming your way, and then join the Discord server in the description and my pinned comment. Now let's head over to the Board of Awesome for the epic people who support the channel on Patreon. That support helps me to do this every single day, so thanks to everybody on here. If you want to join them on the Board of Awesome, the link to the Patreon page is in the description and my pinned comment. And with that all said, I'm Get Good Guy, and I'll see you next time. Laters.